The light went dark first. Not the door, not the logs. When the relief crew arrived, the tower was locked, the table was set and the sea lay calm enough to pretend. 3 lighthouse keepers vanished from a rock that offered nowhere to hide, and no reason for all of them to leave together.
Subscribe.
The Flannan Isles sit west of Scotland, where the Atlantic grinds itself against stone. Nothing grows here, nothing shelters. The land ends sharply as if the sea cut it away and forgot to finish the job. On Eilean Moor, the largest of the islands, a lighthouse had been completed only months earlier. Its purpose was simple and absolute: stand where nothing else could and keep ships from sharing the island's fate. It was not built for comfort, it was built to endure. Inside, everything had its place: paraffin and tools, ropes coiled tight, spare wicks stored like small promises, a narrow kitchen that smelled of salt and oil even after the stove cooled. The man lived by small repetitions, cleaning lenses until glass looked like water, scraping soot from chimneys, counting supplies as if numbers could hold back weather. When the wind rose, the tower creaked. When it dropped, the silence pressed in. 3 men were stationed there. James Ducat, the principal keeper, was known for discipline and order. He trusted structure more than instinct, believing routine was the only thing that kept isolation from loosening its grip. Thomas Marshall, the assistant keeper, was younger, physically strong, dependable. He worked without complaint and treated repetition as reassurance. And Donald MacArthur, the relief keeper, was older, experienced, and less patient. He had served on isolated posts before and knew how quickly boredom could sour into anger. Their days were narrow by design. Watches rotated, lamps were cleaned, machinery was checked again even when it did not need to be. Logbooks mattered. They were proof that time was still moving. Isolation was part of the job, and so was danger. Disappearance was not. On December 15, 1900, the supply ship Hesperus was scheduled to arrive. Bad weather delayed it. Storms moved through the region, violent but familiar to men who measured their lives in forecasts. From the mainland, something small drew attention. The light was no longer visible, not dimmed, not obscured by fog. Gone. Days passed, the storms eased. The light did not return. On December 26th, the Hesperus finally reached the island. Joseph Moore, a relief keeper, was sent ashore alone. The climb up from the landing felt longer than usual. The path was wet stone and wind-slick grass, the kind that turned ankles without warning. Halfway up, he paused, expecting a figure to appear, a wave, a shout, any human answer. Only gulls circled and complained. No one waited at the top, no flag was raised, no movement answered his calls. The lighthouse door was locked. Inside, the air felt held. A meal sat where it had been left, Bread cut but uneaten. A chair lay overturned as if pushed back too quickly. Oilskins were missing, though not all of them. One coat still hung on its hook. Another lay folded indoors untouched. A drawer stood slightly open. A tin of biscuits sat on the counter, with its lid crooked as if someone meant to return. Even the beds looked slept in, not abandoned, but interrupted. The clocks had stopped. There were no signs of struggle, no damage inside the tower, nothing to explain how 3 men had simply stepped out of the story. Search efforts moved below the lighthouse toward the exposed western cliffs. There the island showed evidence of force. Iron railings bent outward, a supply box torn apart, deep scars cut into stone well above the reach of ordinary waves. The sea had struck hard. At the landing, ropes were examined. Winch gear, hooks, chains. Anything that might have pulled a man close to the edge. The rock there was darker, wet in places that should have dried, as if the island itself stayed damp with recent violence. But the logbooks complicated the explanation. Entries described storms, yet they also recorded unease. Notes about wind direction, about pressure, about nights that felt longer than they should. One sentence stood apart. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. The handwriting was controlled, the sentiment was not. Experienced keepers did not abandon posts lightly. They did not at all step outside together. Rules existed because the island allowed no margin for error. Yet something had drawn every man beyond the door. The sea returned nothing. The official explanation settled on a rogue wave, a sudden surge, an unpredictable strike. But waves do not explain preparation. They do not explain locked doors. They do not explain why no one stayed behind. Another explanation leaned on duty. One man went out to secure equipment. Another followed. The third refused to remain inside watching through glass while the others faced danger. Responsibility layered itself until the tower stood empty. Some suggested misjudgment, a calm surface hiding violence beneath. Possible, still incomplete. Darker ideas surfaced briefly and faded. There was nothing to hold them in place. What remained was simpler. Men, rules, and a place that punished hesitation as harshly as error. The lighthouse continued operating. New keepers arrived. They followed procedures with care that bordered on fear. They logged sounds, weather changes, and long stretches where nothing happened at all. They checked the lantern room twice. They counted oil. They kept coats within arm's reach. They watched the sea not for beauty but for the moment it changed its mind. Some reported unease, others only felt wind and work. Ships still passed safely. The light still turned, but the question never settled. Not what happened, but why 3 men, trained, experienced, disciplined, all stepped outside and left no one behind. A lighthouse exists to face danger without moving. The men who kept it are expected to do the same. Sometimes even that is not enough. And the sea, which keeps no memory, offers no answers to those left behind. The light outlived its keepers. It still watches the dark.
Like and subscribe.